All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Honey Batch Radio. I know we went live because I started playing the video. This is my name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is Maintaining Frame number. What number are we on? 134. And we are going to be. It's called "Why Would a Man Do This?"
Yeah.
And we're going to be discussing the reaction to a really, sad and unfortunate crime and incident. I thought, Allison suggested we play this video first.
So we just sort of basically started accidentally.
Yes, I accidentally started because I opened the link and it started playing the video, and I had the automatic scene switcher set up to switch to this scene when a video is
all
playing.
Right, let's all take a deep breath and okay, all right. So we are going to be covering a recent murder suicide, and I'm not really good at the names, so I'll let Brian fill in those. But what we're going to be covering is the response to it online and the response to the response. So men had an opinion on it, women had an opinion on men's opinion on it.
Well, everybody had an opinion on it, but men's opinion on it in some cases caused a absolute firestorm of opinions responding to those opinions. And obviously they were about a specific what is claimed to be a specific group of men, the manosphere, the red pill, whatever, which I guess includes us because we get lumped in with them all the time. And we're going to try to parse through it and essentially get all of the emotional baggage out of there and try to look at this objectively, which of course is misogyny, guys. You know that, right? Like if I said, let's look at this objectively, obviously that means I hate women. That's code for I hate women.
Yeah, exactly. So, but there was a few things that I wanted to talk about before we go into it. I think Bill Burr sort of sets the tone with a lot of the men's responses. I think they were misinterpreted by the women. And of course, there were some men who responded to this murder-suicide and said something like, finally women get what they deserve, right, for their behavior. Now, yes, there is going to be that kind of a response. I do not think it's exclusive to men. I think that women do it too. And in particular, because feminists speak for all women, that's what they say they do, and they are synonymous with women. Feminists have an entire branch of scholarship that consists entirely of he deserved it. Basically, they go to men or the women who are charged or have confessed to abusing men, and they say, well, why did you do it? And then they take those answers and they say, this is why women abuse men. It's because they incite it, they provoke it. All right. So on the one hand, we have some men on Twitter saying she deserved it. On the other hand, we have an entirely legitimate branch of scholarship that proclaims that men deserve domestic violence, up to and including being murdered. All right. So I just want to put that out there, that this is a problem. If this is a problem, and it probably is, this kind of victim blaming is a problem, it is not a problem exclusive to men. And in fact, if you want to rank the severity of the problem, it is more severe among women. If we allow that feminists speak for women, because not only do feminists say that men deserve it, like I said, an entire branch of scholarship that amounts to, if an abusive woman says that he provoked her, you take her at her word and he is actually the abusive party, right? So we have an entire branch of scholarship that asserts that. It has existed for something like 40 years, 50 years, ever since we realized that domestic violence is more symmetrical than anybody wants to admit. Immediately, feminists wanted to excuse the violence done by women to men, and they constructed all kinds of surveys, all kinds of distorted samples in order to do so, in order to justify the violence that women do to men. So if we're going to rank the problem, we have on the one hand, some men on Twitter saying she deserved it. On the other hand, we have a tenured professors, an institutional narrative, an entire branch of scholarship in the domestic violence and social services sphere, a a government funded campaign. So I think the severity of these issues, not really comparable, but yes, they are a problem for both. Just the scope of the problem is like comparing a pea to the moon. Like, all right, so let's get into it.
Let's watch this. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
watch the video first. I'm going to let it play for a minute, and then we'll go into this. Is just to set the tone, or at least have, like, you know, make it a little bit lighter. So I'm going to play it now.
You know what the maddest she ever got at me was? One time she was watching this show. It was like a poor excuse for The View. And they started talking about domestic violence, right? For the 9 millionth time this year, they're talking about domestic violence. How do you not know not to do that? Do they really have to keep talking about it? So at the end of the hour, they come to the logical conclusion. They're like, there is no reason to hit a woman. There is no reason to hit a woman. And I was just like, really? I could give you like 17 right off the top of my head. You could wake me from a drunken stupor, I could still give you like 9. Dude, there's plenty of reasons to hit a woman. You just don't do it. But to sit there and suggest that there's no reason. Dude, the level of ego behind that statement. What are you, levitating above the rest of us? You're never annoying? Women, how many times have you thought about slapping your fucking guy in the head this week?
Every day!
There you go. Every day. You didn't do it, right?
Well, she probably did, actually.
Yeah.
So,
Let's be honest.
That's why she said it. That's why she felt so emboldened to say that.
But this is what I wanted to get at. I think there might be some men who just flat out say she deserved it. I think that when I was looking at it, the majority were saying this is what is provoking about what she did. Yeah, there was a reason. There's no
well,
excuse,
we should tell people what the story is, because
Sure,
again, that's the thing that I told you about, where you immediately start counter arguing an argument no one's heard yet. So
okay, all right.
Let's see this. Okay, first I'm going to give you the story. Then we're going to look at some videos where people were responding to the response.
Okay.
And yeah, the responses are obviously cherry picked, but TikToker Jennifer Sheffield said she felt incredible about ex-husband before apparent murder-suicide. So you may have heard of the story of Jennifer and Brandon Sheffield, because Jennifer Sheffield put out a TikTok post saying that she's getting a divorce and that her husband's been really, really cool about it, really incredible. He's helping her out. I think this is the video, but I don't think you can listen to it, but it is in the video responses. And this was just, I think, like a week or something before she and her husband were both found dead, assumed that he killed her and then himself. He may have killed her kids too, but I don't remember. Let's see.
No, it was just a murder-suicide.
I think it was just her and himself, right? Yeah. And of course, it says, we're splitting everything down the middle. Everything is good, she said, of her relationship with her estranged husband, Brandon, 40 at the time. It is a very civil divorce with our daughter in mind. Jennifer confessed that since she was going to be a mom with a single income, she was reaching out to her network for tips on keeping costs down. She noted that Brandon will be helping with the fees associated with her daughter. Once the divorce was finalized, he will be supporting her. So essentially, I'm really thankful for that, and that I will not have to worry so much about supporting her, Jennifer continued. And so, yes, the positive message amid their divorce was shared 18 days before Jennifer and Brandon were found dead on December 28, 2024 in Brandon, Mississippi, around 7:19 a.m. local time. Brandon Police Department Chief Joseph French confirmed their deaths to Dark Horse Press now that same day. Authorities arrived on scene after receiving a welfare check call from Jennifer's family, who reported signs of foul play. So it appears, according to the police chief, that Brandon Sheffield shot his wife, Jennifer Sheffield, then shot himself, before adding that the authorities were working with the theory that their deaths were the result of an apparent murder-suicide. It is an ongoing investigation, so this is possibly going to change, but that's what it looks like right now. So we're going to look at, I don't want to comment on this just yet, but we're going to, it is a tragedy, okay? But this started a conversation, as these things ought to do, online about, all kinds of things. Obviously, feminist women and feminist men, and probably all kinds of people were saying that this man is a monster and all of that. And that is monstrous behavior, if I was going to talk about the behavior. But what also, there were people who were like trying to understand what happened. So they had this idea that let's try to explain this. Let's try to see, now, why would a man act this way? Because I think that what was emerging was this sentiment that this is simply men's default settings, that this is just what men do. And there were men going, no, that's not quite right. So anyway, what we have for our video were these requests
these were requests. Yeah,
okay.
They were requests. So
all right. So we got our friend Hannah Cox, who obviously has something to say about this. And we also have a video from Amala Okinobi. Yeah, anyway. She's all right. But on this one, I think that she is off the mark. But so I don't know if you want to do the things before we get into Hannah Cox's thoughts on men's thoughts on this.
Yes. I would like to remind everyone that the very best way, if you want to send us a tip and support the show, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/support. And well, actually, that's not the tip. That's just the support one. So if you want to support the show, but not send a tip or have a comment, then go to feedthebadger.com/support. If you want to send a tip, then you go to feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And with that tip, you can also send a message and we will be sure to read it out on air. So the very best way to send us a tip, and if you like a message, it's at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And that's pretty much it. I decided, somebody said in the comments that I needed to do something with my hair, so I did. Did you guys? Did you?
I don't. Yes. I see you wearing a hat, so I can't really.
Yeah, I guess the hair looks like it's part of the hat now.
Oh, I see. Okay, I thought those were headphones. It reminds me of I thought they were, because I can't, like, I'm looking at like a pretty small version of the camera.
Like pretty pixelated, so you're like, oh, you're just wearing some headphones. Yeah, but I did do something with my hair. I made them appear to be like cinnamon buns.
You ever see Spaceballs? Spaceballs? The parody of Star Wars that was made by Mel Brooks, and the princess, she's got like, she looks like she has the Princess Leia buns. But then it's so early on, and then she takes them off. They're like headphones. Anyway.
All right. Yeah.
All right. So I did get a Rumble rant right at the beginning. Let me open up the Discord server too, so I can get the super chows if they come through. Because normally I don't have this tab open, so we gotta open it really quick. NobaFan21 gave us $1 and says the feminists claiming women cannot be abusers because power dynamics and patriarchy are giving fuel to men to make The Handmaid's Tale real. Remind me why I'm supposed to feel bad for women again? I mean, I think that there's a lot of chatter around that, but it's just talk. Like that's, I'm sorry, but that's not going to happen. There's too many. Firstly, women would have to vote for it. Secondly, men would also, like, in overwhelming majorities, have to come out in support of that as well. So I think I can understand where you're coming from, but I don't think that that's even close to a likelihood of happening. It's not even like it's not even in the cards. But that's it. I mean, but thank you for the Rumble rant regardless. Let me see. So no super chows yet, but I am ready to receive them when you guys are. So we're gonna get into Hannah Cox now. And her video is called "Red Pill Men Are Justifying Her Murder." So this just so you know where she's coming. What is the tone that's being set here? And I already told the story of Jennifer Sheffield and what happened. So let's find out about the misogyny that obviously must follow. And remember, guys, in case you don't, Hannah Cox is the libertarian feminist. Okay? So
there were problems behind the scenes.
Let me turn off
the
auto switcher.
Does she actually give...
No. I think that they're wondering about that. Let me go back a little bit more for context.
Way, there was a pretty decent age gap between them, and it does seem that clearly there were problems behind the scenes in their marriage. What is worth noting, and perhaps
so based on the fact that there was a murder-suicide, I think she's just, concluding
but
that,
here's the thing: like, I've actually looked at the articles, nobody said anything about domestic violence or suspected it. And
No,
at
no.
this point in time, this is one of the things that I actually called out somebody on Twitter, and I said, well, do you ever think that abused women kill their abusers? And she said yes. So I said, the fact that she was the one who was killed does not mean that he was the abuser. If you allow that abuse victims can end up killing their abusers, we don't. She's right. We don't know what happened behind closed doors in their relationship, but if you are going to say that abused women sometimes kill their abusers, and that killing the person who kills the spouse isn't automatically the one who's abusive, they could be engaging in some form of retaliative or some kind of violence. Often these things happen, and there is no apparent self-defense or immediate self-defense involved, and yet feminists will still assert that the woman was defending herself, by throwing boiling water on her sleeping husband. But if you're going to assert that, then just the fact that someone is dead does not mean that the person who killed them is the abuser. Like, unless you don't want to adhere to equality, which,
Well, again, I don't think we should be assuming anything. Like, we don't know.
No.
So it's best to just leave it at that. But they're just going to say there were problems behind the scenes. And, well, we should listen to more, because let's listen to more of what she's claiming.
Makes this even scarier is that the friends who have come forth so far have said that there had been no signs, as far as they knew, of violence before this happened in their marriage. And clearly, based on the TikTok video that she made shortly before this happened, she seemed to think that they were on good terms, that their divorce was going to be amicable, that they were going to be co-parenting, that they had a healthy situation worked out. Now, I have unfortunately lost a friend in very similar circumstances to this, who had been abused by her husband prior to her death. Unlike this circumstance, that was known to literally everybody around my friend before her death. But what I will say is that many people are not always privy. A lot of people are very private about these things when they happen.
And the automatic assumption is that he was the abuser. Right here. The automatic assumption. And yet, if this was a woman killing a man, I mean, look at Courtney Clenny, this is a case that Hannah Cox will probably never cover. There's plenty of people who are like, well, he was abusing her. That's why she had to engage in self-defense. I believe her defense attorney argued that. And, if you are going to allow that abuse victims sometimes kill their abuser, you can't look at the situation and say, well, who is the abuser? Unless you're just basically defaulting on the man being the abuser.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why there is a reaction from men online, because they're they're like, well, wait a minute, we're jumping to conclusions here. So let's but let's listen to some more, because she's going to get into the misogyny.
Times women have been conditioned to try to keep the peace, to try to keep up appearances, and even are afraid of their partners, and so will try.
I guess every woman in my family must have missed that memo.
Yeah, we're already getting the feminist line, like, oh, well, here's the thing about women. And when you hear words like most, usually, often, those are equivocations. They're using these buzzwords that are very, give them a lot of plausible deniability, so that they can make a broad claim while simultaneously claiming it's nuanced. So when Hannah Cox says a lot of the time that she doesn't know what she's talking about. Like, a lot of the time doesn't mean anything. It's not data. So anyway, go ahead.
All right. So relationship conflicts stress men more than women. So despite women being the peacekeepers, they're not doing a very good job of it, because on average, relationships conflicts end up stressing men more than women. I can send this to you if you want to look at it. It might be worth it, because this helps debunk her nonsense. So study, part of a larger National Institute of Mental Health funded investigation, involved 124 couples between the ages of 18 and 21 who had been together for at least 2 months. Of course, so this is a limited scope, but it's evidence of something. Powers and her team assessed participants' self-reported avoidance of intimacy and dependence on the romantic partner and anxiety about rejection and abandonment. Secure types had low levels. Okay, all right. That's not. The researchers found that although both men and women have a physiological response to relationship conflict, the response is much more pronounced in men than in women and involves different attachment factors. Anxiety was a strong predictor for response in men, but in women, only highly avoidant types showed significant cortisol changes. Men and women may face different demands in the conflict negotiation task, Powers explains. In a relationship, women are often expected to initiate and guide conflict discussions. For avoidant women who prefer to distance themselves, and so they talk about avoidant. Men, on the other hand, are often expected to be more passive participants. So Powers surmises that although they may want to resolve issues, anxious men feel particularly uncomfortable acutely confronting relationship conflicts. All right.
Mm-hmm.
However, the men in the study who had secure female partners showed the lowest levels of cortisol reactivity, indicating that their partners were helping to regulate their physiological stress levels. The converse was true for women. Their partner's attachment style did not have a regulating effect on their stress levels. All right. So can I just make translate this?
Sure.
If your woman was abusive, you became stressful during relationship conflicts, more stress than men. So when she's saying that, what was she saying? That women are peacekeepers? Well, if they're peacekeepers, then they're equally war makers in conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
If they're peacekeepers, is because they choose to be so. Because they can equally be thugs in a relationship conflict, because the men are vulnerable. You don't have a stress response unless you're in a vulnerable situation. So what this study has found, this is actual information. It isn't just Hannah Cox going, I feel my anecdotes give me the tinglies in this particular direction. This is actually something that's been studied. Men feel more stress. That means they're more vulnerable in a relationship conflict, right? And what happens to stressed animals when they're cornered? And what's interesting is that despite the murder-suicides getting all the headlines because they fall in line with our attitudes towards men, there are 20 men. 20 men. You could probably find their names who have killed themselves in the same circumstance that this man was going through, but they are never heard from. They are completely ignored. Instead, we focus on this. And I actually made a tweet and said that if we recognize the men who kill themselves in these circumstances, we would probably, and we were able to help them, we would probably be also preventing the murder-suicides. But because we don't care about men getting to this point of desperation, we don't care about helping them with it, what ends up happening? We get 20 dead men, 21 dead men, 1 dead woman, and everything is about preventing the dead woman. Well, you're not going to prevent the dead woman until you prevent the dead men, period. And I don't know what the scale has to be. Does it have to be 1,000 dead men and 1 dead woman? And then you start to care? Does it have to be 3,000, 50,000, 500 million dead men to 1 dead woman, and then you start caring? At what point do you start caring? All right.
All right. I got a super chow that I should read out from Dane. Thank you, Dane. Gives us $5 and says, my mother is on life support and her ending is near. My friend lost his dad a few years ago, and recently this Christmas, he talked about how he's forgetting what his dad sounded like. So I suggest everyone get audio or video of your loved ones telling you that they love you, so you never forget what they sound like, and you can always hear and see them say, mom, dad, sibling, etc. I love you, insert name. I have videos and audios of my mom telling me she loves me. I've been listening to them throughout my day. They help with the hurt. Sorry for the off-topic comment, but I felt like I should share this. Well, thank you, Dane, for that. It's probably good advice, and I'm sorry that your mom's going through that, but hopefully you guys will pull through.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So let's go back to Hannah Cox because she's going to get to the good part, I guess. So.
To prevent incurring more of their wrath. So I don't know where Jennifer was coming from when she made this TikTok video, if she was genuine and really truly believed that that was the state of her marriage and impending divorce, or if she was doing it to try to hopefully make sure that things went the way she needed them to go.
Oh, there's a lot more ors there, Hannah Cox. Or she was gloating, or she was a narcissist, and she was basically like, "Well, I'm destroying his life, but it's not inconvenience me, so go me."
Yeah, it's
But
funny
you know,
how a woman can make a TikTok video, and because she appears to be really wholesome and cheerful in the video, that we're just supposed to assume that anything that like happens to her could not possibly be her fault. Like the bias is coming right out, right? I wonder if the video, yeah, the video's right here. Should we listen to it for the people who don't know? Let's
sorry, I
play her
spoke too
video.
softly.
No, it's okay. I'm gonna play the
I
video
will
of this
I will
girl
address
real
something
quick.
that you
But
said.
yeah,
It couldn't be her fault. Well, the murder suicide probably, no matter what it was provoked by, probably was, that's not really her fault.
I'm not
But
saying it is, but I'm just saying that
I
it's the
mean,
way that it
before
paints
that,
everything. Yeah.
before that, could when we're conjecturing about the relationship before that, we don't know anything about it. And I'm just pointing out that Hannah Cox, no doubt, would say if you have a dead man killed by his wife, she wouldn't probably jump to the assumption that she was the abuser. I highly doubt it, because she's a feminist, and that's not what feminists do. So
Yeah.
my point is that if she is going to give women the benefit of the doubt in circumstances like this, and even actively look for abuse against the woman who engaged in the murder, why isn't she recognizing it in this circumstance?
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Okay, let's keep going.
All right, I'm gonna play the beginning
On
part.
December 10th, 2024, a woman named Jennifer Sheffield posted this TikTok.
So, about to be a newly single mom, and I am in the middle of a divorce. My husband is being incredible though, like really and truly, like we're working together, everything's great, we're splitting everything down the middle, like, everything is good. It is a very civil divorce with our daughter in mind, and I really appreciate that. However, I'm gonna be on my own, single income right now, and he will be helping with her, he will be supporting her, so essentially, like, I'm really thankful for that, and that I will not have to worry so much about supporting her. However, I will be on a very limited income, with buying a new house and, paying a mortgage and all that stuff. So, I've never done this before. I've never been on my own before. So if you have any tips, saving money, making money, anything like that, like, I would really appreciate it. Like, coffee at home, I take caffeine pills, I do my own hair, nails, everything. Like, I do.
He doesn't have a job?
She is a student. According to Hannah Cox, she's going to be a doctor or something. Which, I mean, just because you're going to school for medicine doesn't mean you're going to be a doctor. But again,
No.
we have to give her all of the benefit of the doubt, right? That's kind of like the thing that I'm getting out of this, is that it's all, we give her all the benefit of the doubt. Oh, look, and look, this is the thing. That TikTok video is, like a minute or so long, right? It paints a picture of this person. And I think that when you hear what happened to them afterwards, there's like a gut instinct to side with her because she seems so pleasant and she's cute and she's young and she's, she's curious and she's like, appears to be humble or whatever. And so we're just supposed to side with her. And of course, we don't know anything about the man. We don't know what his situation is. All we know is that he's older and that they're getting a divorce. And so I just want you to see that, because I think that ultimately with both of these videos, these women who are responding, they're not responding to so much the events. They're not even really so much responding to the things that are being said, but they don't like the tone. and they're coming out and saying, I don't like the tone of this. But yeah, so.
And again,
but
like I'm asserting that we don't know. We don't know what happened prior to this.
She could be an absolute monster, like behind closed door. We don't know. This
Yes,
is why I'm
I have
saying,
known
like,
women. I've known women. We're absolutely beloved. I went to the funeral one. Funeral was absolutely packed, but I knew for a fact that she was a monster to the people closest to her. And the funeral was packed because she was charming, she was friendly, she seemed wholesome to everybody who was at arm's distance. But once you weren't at arm's distance, she was really aggressive and abusive. And that's something that a lot of people have said about. There's a certain type of, I think, narcissist who manages to gather a huge crowd of virtual strangers. Meanwhile, their friends and family get the brunt of everything negative in their lives. And so just the fact that she looks good, she looks cute when the camera is rolling doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that she is abusive. I'm not saying she isn't. But to look into this tragedy and immediately frame it in ideological terms, this is what is happening here. And the thing is that there are guys on Twitter who come with despair and they're like, "Oh, I wish this hadn't happened," because I'm like, they always do this. There will be another murder-suicide, guaranteed, because they refuse to look at the things that actually would prevent them. It's like these women who assert this stuff, who frame this stuff in terms of their ideology, do nothing to promote the stuff that would prevent this. Okay? What would prevent this is to deal with men before they get to this level of despair. And you wouldn't just be saving the woman, you'd be saving the 21 men who died with this one woman, right? It's to figure out how to get to men when they're pushed to that level of despair, to actually care to do so. And then you would be preventing the downstream problems. I got into a huge argument over this with women who were like, "No, that's completely different. It's completely different." It's like, no, it isn't. He was pushed to the edge by something. If this man wasn't abusive beforehand, and it looks like it's entirely possible, he was pushed to the edge of despair by this event. And he probably, if he hadn't decided to kill himself, probably would never have killed his ex-wife. Mm-hmm. If he hadn't previously decided to kill himself, he probably never would have killed his ex-wife. So if you can actually get to men before they get to the point of that level of despair, you will likely prevent a lot of collateral damage towards other people, right? School shootings is the same. Get to them before they get to that level of despair. Most men will just kill themselves. Most men won't take that step and kill anybody but themselves. And the funny thing is that she stands up there and she is pontificating about this being a reflection of men. That's the other thing. And
It is. That's right. But we should let's let her do that.
I won't respond to her before she does that. I'm making a prediction that she's going to do that.
I know. That's fine. But we should definitely, because otherwise, right, we're giving ammunition to people. So
in a good light to prevent incurring more of their wrath. So I don't know where Jennifer was coming from when she made this TikTok video, if she was genuine and really truly believed that was the state of her marriage and impending divorce, or if she was doing it to try to hopefully make sure that things went the way she needed them to go. I find it a bit hard to believe that someone could just escalate overnight into doing something so heinous and grotesque, but we do see crimes of passion that have happened in the past where somebody doesn't have a background of violence. So I can't really answer or speak to any of that as of right now. What I can speak to is the equally grotesque reaction.
No, it's not equally grotesque.
By a lot of
equally grotesque.
Offending you, Hannah Cox, is not equally grotesque to murdering someone.
Yeah, that was just like, I don't know if she just thought that was flowery language, but it's absolutely incorrect. Somebody saying something on the internet is not the same as murder-suicide. I don't know if you guys need to be told this, especially you libertarians that supposedly believe in free speech, but they're not the same.
No, not the same.
Men online. Obviously, this
Of
story is
men
haunting
online.
and disturbing and just tragic all around. You have this promising young woman who lost her life. You have 2 daughters who have now been orphaned thanks to their loser father. It's just trauma and injustice every single way you look at it.
But not the
But
guy
really,
who commits
just when you
suicide. This is a funny thing, because when I was talking to a feminist online about this, she ended. I had this exchange, and through the exchange, she said something that indicated she had forgotten there was a suicide involved, like completely forgotten. And I'm like, you remember that there's a suicide involved in this, and that's the thing. Like, people are ignoring the fact that this man killed himself. You don't think that matters in this whole equation? And for some reason, because a murder was involved, the suicide is negated, and suicidality, what causes suicide in men, and treating suicide in men, or treating the pre-suicide in men, becomes irrelevant. It's not irrelevant. There was a victim here that you are missing, Hannah Cox, and that's the man. You don't kill yourself when you're happy. And you don't kill yourself necessarily as a way to control others. I know that that's another argument they like to make, but okay, let's keep going.
All right, we're gonna play some more of this. So yeah, grotesque. Okay.
Think it can't get even worse. Just when you think this is like the bottoming out of humanity, it does. Online men take it upon themselves to come in and demonstrate firsthand why so many women choose the bear over a man when posed
Oh
with a
God.
question. Public.
Yeah. I think she had some examples, so maybe we could hear her.
So
examples.
is this woman, like, I'm going to ask the audience, is this woman that attractive?
This is kind of petty, Allison.
I know it's kind of petty, but it's just like, she seems like this is how she's presented, you know.
Well, no, she certainly thinks of herself as like high value because I looked at her tweet, her
I don't mean that physically. I
thing.
mean, you know, on the level of being a human being. Does this woman make you want to go out and get a girlfriend? That's what I mean. On a level of resonating or compassion or caring about anything or being a decent human being. I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about on that level. Anyway, maybe it is petty. Something about Hannah Cox really triggers my pettiness.
Yeah. All right.
Publicly posting some of the most unhinged justifications for this man's actions you can imagine. Jeff Younger took to Twitter to quote tweet someone who had posted about the case and said, well, she was taking his kids, as if
Jeff Younger said she was taking his kids. Now, first of all, is that a justification?
No.
Is that a justification? No. It's someone trying to parse out what could be the cause for this. But let's dig deeper. Who is Jeff Younger? I don't know if Hannah Cox knows this, but who is Jeff Younger? Do you guys remember the case of Jeff Younger? And so Jeff Younger was married and had a child. And his child was his wife, or the mother of his child, wanted to transition his son, Jeff Younger, into a girl, and claimed that Jeff Younger's son knew he was a girl when he was like 2 years old. And Jeff Younger did not want that to happen. Now, some of you might be wondering, how does a guy end up marrying a woman that when they have a child together, she immediately wants to turn the child's sex to the opposite? And he would not agree with that. I have no idea. I think that people should be better at vetting people before they have kids with them. But that doesn't matter. Jeff Younger fought tooth and nail for custody of his child to protect his son from being made to transition by his ex-wife. And he lost the case, and his wife has his kid, and she is basically going to be putting him on hormones if she hasn't already done it. And that kid, I'm sorry, but the odds of that kid turning out normal after that are very slim. So Jeff Younger has opinions on child custody as a result. And so he's going to express that. Now, of course, he is a man, so who cares about what his
Mhm.
experience is or why he might have this opinion. I don't know if Hannah Cox is even knows about the case of Jeff Younger and his son. We've covered it on this channel multiple times because every stage of development we were there to talk about it because, we like to look at the whole picture, like what's going on over here with men. But anyway, that's who Jeff Younger is. So did you know that, Allison, about Jeff Younger? His son is
I
being
did not.
transitioned to be a girl against his will, and he has no ability to do anything about it. And he's not going to be able to see his kid either.
Mm.
So,
Does the kid even want to be how old is the kid?
the child, Jeff Younger's kid, I think you know what? I don't know. I think he's like 6 or 7 now. Still pretty young. I got a rumble rant that I think is extremely important. This might be like really big. Okay.
Okay.
So if this is true, Prolepsis gives us $20. Thank you, Prolepsis. Really appreciate it. Says one of two things, and I think he's referring to not the Jeff Younger thing, but the actual case we're discussing, Sheffield. He found out he wasn't the father. One. So apparently, if this is true, then Sheffield's daughter, because they have a kid together, is not his. 2, the incredible divorce was a product of her coercive control, and he snapped. Refer to Deborah Pony on YouTube for coercive control. We know who Deborah Pony is. Thank you.
Thank you.
We used to have her on our show all the time. So if this is true, this adds a new wrinkle to this entire case.
So Deborah Pony is the one who spoke on this?
I think that she's spoken on coercive control, which we have too.
All right. So
I think that's what he means.
Okay. So because I'm still trying to look at for a particular. All right. So. All right.
So
this was a super.
Can anyone? This was a Rumble rant. So can anyone confirm that Sheffield's daughter is not his, and that because if that's the case, then that changes a lot. that makes because it means that she was either lying to him about him being the father, or she cheated on him, or something, and then she essentially he was made in the divorce to pay for the child. Like this adds a lot more complexity to the story, and it's not as simple as man bad kills wife, whatever. So, but yeah. Anyway.
Okay, there's some mix up because there's like another Sheffield of some kind, but yeah.
Well, I would like to confirm this. So Prolepsis, if you know, send me send us something through. You can join our Discord. I don't know if you're in there for free by going to badgernation.online. We'd really like to see the sources on this because this has become like a big deal. And I think this knowledge is going to blow this whole thing wide open if it's true.
And then they'll just go into it'll be just go into the memory hole. People will stop caring about it.
Not for us. We won't forget. But
Instead of laying in.
Yeah, sorry.
All right.
Okay, let's keep going.
All right, I want to play some more of Hannah Cox. So yeah, Jeff Younger, kid was taken from him when he was very young, like I think a toddler, and she's been, he can't stop this from happening. So he's going to have opinions on child custody.
That in any way justifies his actions. First and foremost.
Again, he's not justifying anything. He's simply saying this could be the reason. That's it. He's not saying it's right. He's not justifying anything. But
I wanted to point something out because I think this is a dynamic that men and women don't see eye to eye on. For women, because there isn't this bar of personal, like if a woman is provoked, everybody talks about what provoked her, right? We immediately go to, and you see this in feminist scholarship, which got, rubber stamped by almost everybody. They go from a woman beating a man, stabbing a man, throwing boiling water on a man, and then they go to that woman and they say, what provoked you? And then that becomes the reason why it happened. And I see this over and over and over when we talk about female criminality or malfeasance. It no longer is the woman who chose to engage in the violence. It's the person who provoked her. So I'm wondering if Hannah Cox and this other woman that we will be covering looked at this and saw these men say, this could have been provoking. This is something that she did in the video that seemed, personally, when I watched it the second time, I thought it felt very gloating. But you know, they lay out what the provocation could be, and because they're viewing it through the lens of this kind of softening of women's responsibility, they think that these men are excusing the action. No, they're not. Because let's face it, if this man had survived his suicide, there would be men hunting him down. There would be men interrogating him. There would be men gathering evidence to put him in jail for the rest of his life. There would be men and transporting him to that jail, or conducting the trial to send him to jail. There would be men, transporting him to jail. There would be men keeping him in jail and ensuring that he is no longer a threat to anyone else. And it is predominantly men who do this because, let's face it, men can only really enforce things on men physically, because the strength differential. And also, it's men that constructed this entire justice system to bring male criminals to justice in the first place. And when we had things like firearms that could be easily operated by women, women started to join the ranks of that. But I don't, like, it's going to be men. If this man lived, it would be men who would bring him to justice, right? So, and they would look at that and they say, yes, this was provoked. This is how men would look at it. This was provoked by X, Y, and Z, or might have been provoked by X, Y, and Z, but he is still responsible. He still should have risen above that provocation, and he still should be subject to punishment. That's the male response to this. They might look into the provocation in a preventative manner in the future, but that would not excuse, like, if she's going to talk about the male response, which is what she's doing, she's excluding a lot of it. She is solely focusing on the men who said she deserved it, ignoring the men who said perhaps this was a form of provocation, or even framing them as saying that she deserved it. And she's doing so because, again, I think she's looking at it from a very feminine lens, which is, if somebody provokes me, I don't have the responsibility. I don't have as much responsibility to resist the provocation, which is supported by all of the feminist scholarship, blaming men for provoking women's violence. You know, that this attitude is very prevalent, especially among feminist women. And I'm saying she's looking at this through that lens. She's projecting her own attitude towards female violence onto men. And I think a lot of those men would say she might have provoked it in this way, and yet they would still go out of their way to make sure that he was, if he had survived, was not a threat to society. They would still have expected him to adhere to a high standard of responsibility, and not like they would say that this provocation, like, your actions were not equivalent to the provocation, therefore you should be punished, is what I'm saying. And that's the entire male response. Analyze the situation, administer like the correct response to what he did, right? And that's omitted here because I don't think that Hannah Cox really has the mentality to understand it. To understand that men can say,
all she sees is a lack of empathy for this poor woman who is, dead, and there's really not, empathy doesn't really do her any good, but she wants empathy for women in the abstract as a consequence of what happened to this woman. So
and I'm saying
it's
you
like
need empathy for men.
Yeah, I know. You could double that, in fact. And it probably has. But what I'm saying is that, like, what I think, it seems to me, like, with this video, is that her problem with the male response is that it isn't performative in the way that she thinks it should be. It's rational and analytical, maybe even like, maybe there are some men who are, and I'm sure you could find people with all kinds of opinions, but those are the people she chooses to focus on. But more than that, and that gets into the video, she also, as a consequence of that focuses on the men who did not call out the men who did not take this seriously enough. It's not even that they were necessarily on board, but it was that other men weren't saying, hey, buddy, don't say that about women, right? And that was so she ends up blaming like the majority of men, because there's the men who said something she didn't like about something that about someone she didn't even know. Like I told Lindsay about this and she was like, well, I don't know her, so I don't know how upset I'm supposed to be. You know, I mean, it's always tragic when someone is murdered, but like, okay, like, you know, but anyway, let's listen to more.
Most, it does not seem that she was taking his kids. According to her in her own video, they were going to be sharing their kids. They are equally their kids. But secondarily, even if she had been, I would say that this was an example of a time that a man should have his kids taken, because this man is a murderer. He clearly
wait. Okay, so now we're just jumping right into it with both feet. Okay.
Yeah, the fact that he killed her is proof that he doesn't deserve custody.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, if he'd killed her and survived, he probably shouldn't have custody. But prior to the extreme action, we don't know. Like she even allowed that there's crimes of passion. But the other thing is, again, was it a abusive relationship with the abuse on the behalf of the woman? Like, and the other thing is, if men get into this extreme anxiety when they're just having relationship conflicts, what must be happening during divorce? Right? And that would really go a long way to explain why so many men commit suicide during the divorce proceedings. And then, you know, once in a blue moon, a man kills his partner. And I'd like to actually point out something. Someone ran the stats on the US for intimate partner murder or murder by a family
Proxy?
member.
Family
No,
member,
not by
yeah.
proxy. Like the rate at which men are murdered is about 40% of all intimate partner murders. It's 40%. And I'm not sure if that even included kids. So like that's not that significantly different than 50%. And yet the entire discourse is always around men as perpetrators, women as victims. And when a woman is a perpetrator, of course, she's still a victim. And that entire discourse itself, it creates this fog of bullshit around this social problem that impedes actual people who are actually studying it, operating it to actually reduce the problem. Like Deborah Powney, like she was just mentioned. I'm pretty sure she was the one who brings up the fact that if you want to reduce the violence against women, we have to redress women's own violence. But because feminists are constantly farting out this fog of war around this issue, we can never get in there with real solutions, which means women like Hannah Cox guarantee there will be another murder-suicide, right? They guarantee it because they don't want to embrace anything but what supports their ideology. And their ideology is taking a big, steaming, slightly watery dump on men. Okay. All right.
All right, I'm gonna play some more of this. Lloyd Vine is wondering what we're talking. We're talking about the murder-suicide of Sheffield's, the Sheffields, not the Jeff Younger, but Jeff Younger had an opinion on this recent murder-suicide, and that's why we talked about Jeff Younger for a little while, because that's also an important story. But anyway.
And mentally unstable. He clearly was physically violent and scary and a threat. So his kids should have been taken away from him. And this guy, Jeff Younger, who I don't know who he is, apparently he lost his kids recently too, and he's really upset about it, which like
you stupid.
She doesn't know who Jeff Younger is. Again, like why
look at her
that's not a small blind spot, Hannah Cox. This is like, I thought you gave a shit about the trans agenda. I thought that you cared about men and women's sports or whatever it is that you seem to be focused on, but you don't know about the women who take their children away from their husbands so that they can transition them, so that they can put them on a reality show or make themselves famous or whatever.
Yeah,
like, you don't know about that? Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird?
But like, look at her attitude.
Yeah, of course. She doesn't care.
Contemptuous damn attitude.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. Like,
And Rich Cooper, I don't know if you know Rich Cooper. I had him on my show once. He does a lot of he's kind of a MGTOW guy. I had him on the show a while ago. He also made a comment on this. I think it's either her or the other person, Amala, that made a comment about him. And it was basically, again, it was what these men are doing that these women don't get is they're simply trying to explain what could be the cause so that they could open up a discussion around like that, right? Like, so Jeff Younger's like, well, if you take a man's kids, and I think that there's something that we don't think about, like the lengths that a man would go to protect his children if he's a father. Like, I think that like this is something we won't talk about because, again, if that is expressed in a way that involves force or violence, we're supposed to see that as monstrous, no matter what the conditions are. Unless, of course, it's like an acceptable version, right? So.
okay, so she just did a lot of scope creep here. She starts with, oh, it could have been a crime of passion, and now he's definitely an absolute monster and all this other crap. Even though, again, if it was a dead man who was killed in a murder suicide, she would probably say, well, we can't tell. She might have been an abuse victim.
Yeah.
It's
up in the air.
Hypocrisy. It's
Who
up
knows?
in the air.
Maybe
knows?
he was abusing her and she's just retaliating. Remember when the woman cut off the guy's penis and threw it in a garbage disposal? And then, all the women on The View were laughing about it because they just assumed that he deserved it, even though they had no idea. I think it was because he asked for a divorce.
Well, hell, if there was a dead man on the floor and the woman was still alive, she'd probably be saying, "Oh, we gotta look into it. He's probably the abuser." Like, this is what's so infuriating is the double standard. Okay, so do we have more time codes with her? Or
well, I want to play the rest of this one.
Okay.
And then there's like another one. She talks about how no fault divorce should. Well, she goes into marriage and stuff, but that's not. We'll just finish this time code.
Surprised after observing his Twitter feed for a little bit, but someone said, people really on here trying to justify this. He said, if you take a man's kids, with a shrug emoji. Somebody getting divorced and having to share custody of their kids does not justify murder. I don't know why I have to say that. Like, I don't know.
Again, he's not justifying
Actually,
anything.
you know what? He's not justifying. He's not saying that if this man survived, he shouldn't be punished. He's saying this was an extreme provocation. This is like female logic. It's like,
well, that's just it. Like I said, she's like, why aren't you caring more? Why aren't you caring more? And it's like, well, it's not that I don't care, but like as a being of logic, I'm just trying to understand, like explain to you, this is how this happened. Like that's what he's saying. He's not saying it's right or wrong. He's not making an ought. He's not making a judgment. He's explaining. Yeah, he's saying this is why this happened.
Yeah, if you go into enough trucks and shake your naked ass in front of enough men, you will locate a psycho. Like if you play those odds, and it's like that's what happens. Eventually you will locate a psycho. And men can't stop it unless they can put you in a burqa and keep you in the harem. Right? Yep. And this is like and women say that, listen to that, and they say men are victim blaming. No, it's still wrong. The psycho's behavior is still wrong, and men will still make him take responsibility for it, or her, considering the rate of rape with women, among women to women. I mean, they will make her take responsibility for it, or make him take responsibility for it. But they're still going to say, we can't stop it if you put yourself in danger. I think that's what this is. Enough women divorce and take a man's kids, you're going to find the one psycho or the one abused man who can't take it anymore. All right, let's keep going.
All right.
what stage of evolution this guy is at, but it's not the same one I'm in. Another person responded to him and said, yes, she definitely wasn't trying to protect them from the kind of person who violently flies off the handle when dealing with a life crisis. And he said, you're engaging in the slave master fallacy like most feminists.
What's the slave master fallacy? Like, okay. Yes, she definitely wasn't trying to protect them from the kind of person who violently flies off the handle when dealing with a life crisis. So when she made her TikTok video where everything seemed to be completely cool, was she secretly sending out a cry for help? Because it's impossible for you to know what happened. Oh, Allison stepped away. So anyway, let's listen to what she says about this.
Yes, this is feminist problem. Feminists who made it possible for women to escape abusive men and to hopefully escape abusive marriages with their lives
This is
intact.
bullshit.
Responsible for this.
Women have been able to do this since at least Blackstone in like the in 1797. And then even before then, it wasn't like if well, there was before then. Let's look at some of the Norse sagas. A family abusing the daughter of one other family caused a rift, a freaking war, right? And her, I think it was her mother who demanded retribution for her ill treatment. And yeah, there was a so this was never considered something acceptable. They just didn't have police and jails at the time. You just would end up doing it the old-fashioned way through lynching, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is never something that nobody had the will to watch their female members of their family get their asses kicked, right? You don't see the reverse. You don't see people mounting the horse and getting out the rope for a woman who's engaging in domestic violence against their sons. They just have a good laugh over the beer stein, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is infuriating. Feminists didn't do that for women. And furthermore, feminists couldn't do that for women. If men were hell-bent on using domestic violence to keep women in their place, women would be in their place. There's not much we could do because they're bigger. And I don't mean that as a threatening thing. I mean that as just functional reality. This woman probably doesn't want to fight against trans women in MMA. Well, acknowledge that means that all things considered, if men were as you say they are, Hannah Cox, we would have a vastly different world. And it wasn't feminists that created the situation where women were cared about. It was men who cared about women and protected them from those men who are bad. And those men who are bad are not, you hold them up as the example of what men are, and you ignore all of the men. You know, they hold, like feminists hold Mark Lapine up as an example. They completely ignore. Do we know the names of the men who sacrificed themselves to protect and shield women during that event? No. They're irrelevant, aren't they? They don't represent male nature. No, it's just the assholes, the monsters. Why is this? This is so convenient. So convenient. All right.
Play some more of this. Okay.
Situation, not the violent kinds of men who have been men throughout history when they don't get their way and cannot control them any longer. I am not exaggerating when I say I could show you literally hundreds and hundreds of posts of men making this argument in the comment section.
They're not making an argument.
Yeah, they're not making an argument. They're trying to explain what there could be some that are like behind that, but like, so what? Like, it's not like there's a whole academic, discipline surrounded around hating on women and blaming them for everything.
There's not an academic discipline surrounding saying, like, there's not an academic discipline saying she deserved it. Like, this is what's astounding to me. There is scholarship making the argument that male victims of domestic violence deserved it. There is scholarship. You can find published papers from tenured professors making that argument. And then there's a couple men on Twitter who are like, yeah, I think she might have pushed him, but too far. And she's like, oh my God, this is evidence of what, blah, blah, blah. It's evidence of nothing. It's evidence of a couple people's opinions on Twitter. Get back to me when Stanford approaches them and says, hey, sir, would you like to be a professor if she deserved it? Like, then you'll have a case. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah. All right.
This case, and it is just mind-blowing. It really, really is. Like, something is very broken within these people. Also, I saw a lot of men saying that this is
Jeff Younger's kid is being transitioned against his will. She's effectively murdered his child. She's effectively killed his kid. And this is like the same thing with Elon Musk's kid. That, you know, like he even said it. He says, my child's been murdered by this ideology. In this case, Jeff Younger's child is essentially murdered, certainly not going to be reproducing. So he's made him into a genetic dead end because of his wife. So yeah, I think that he's entitled to be a little bitter about it and may have some words. But again, the free speech absolutist libertarian feminist has a problem with his words because his wife is killing his child slowly, and the government has got behind her because they sided with her to do that. Sure, Hannah Cox.
Indicative of why no-fault divorce should be abolished. They say this is wrong on so many levels. This got repeated over and over. Like, this wouldn't have happened if no-fault divorce weren't a thing. Yeah.
Okay.
It would have happened because if you
yeah, they're changing the
because there wouldn't be a situation where a woman can destroy the life she builds up with a man based on why did she do it? Like, what? Here's the thing. Like, a woman like Hannah Cox, imagine she finds her perfect 6'5", blue eyes job in finance, right? And she's like, oh boy, I can just imagine the castle I'll live in with my perfect white knight. And then the next morning, he doesn't text her. Imagine how much butthurt she would express over that, and how all the women would gather around her and say, yeah, he's such a bastard. You're so right to feel like you're hard done by, right? This is a one night stand, a situation where she had a relationship for a day, and all the women understand how absolutely devastated she would be because she doesn't get a text the next morning, right, from this guy. And all of the breach of promise laws that we eventually repealed, which basically amount to the same thing, the heart bomb laws, that women would be so shattered, emotionally shattered by a man not giving them the relationship they believe for whatever reason they were promised, right? And she can't understand why this guy is absolutely destroyed by having invested however many years he invested in this relationship, in these kids, and this woman, and building something with her, and she just decides not to text him the next day. Right?
Yep.
Can you understand? And I had this argument with one of these, and I had to actually take her through it and say, don't you think you'd understand how upset a woman would be if she didn't even receive a text the next day from some dude that just hit it and quit it? You can't see why he might be absolutely destroyed by the fact that his life has been absolutely destroyed by the unilateral decision of this woman? For what reason? Well, it's no fault, so there's no reason. She just got bored. Maybe the guy didn't text you because one of your parts fell off, Hannah Cox, and he was grossed out. Like that he could have any reason, any superficial reason not to text you the next day. And yet all of the women would gather around and say, what a bastard. Okay. Can we say this about her? What a bitch. Like, a man doesn't text you the next day after you have sex with him. What a bastard. How dare he? He owed you something. This woman destroys her entire life with her husband. But that should just be, he should just take it. You should just be like, oh, he doesn't have any right to feelings. This is what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I'm saying that he had a right to kill her. I'm saying that when you look at this situation, you should understand that it's extremely traumatic. She was causing him excruciating pain. You know, all the abuse that you call out when men do it to women, controlling abuse, emotional abuse, she had his life in her hand and she was poking it. That's what she was doing. Right? Whether or not she understood the depth of the pain she was causing him, I don't know. But that's what she was doing. And if you can understand that men who don't text the next day cause women pain, you can understand this, that a man just unilaterally divorcing his wife because she, gained 50 pounds. You can understand this, that she is destroying his life. She is causing him agony and trauma. Every single no-fault divorce, unilateral divorce, is one person saying, I'm going to fuck you up. I'm going to control every aspect of your life. I'm going to fuck every bit of it. And I'm going to hand you back the broken shards of your dreams, your hopes and dreams, and everything you built. That's what it is. And yes, you can say that women should have the right to do it, but let's recognize what they have the right to do.
Okay. I jumped ahead to another bit about, it's called the broader implications of male violence, because obviously, you know. And here's, again, El Tapo Guzman took a screenshot of this someone named AF Wingmom 1 who said, newsflash for women, marriage is not a fairy tale. It takes a hard work and dedication to make a lifelong marriage work. Many women nowadays are selfish, prideful, and unwilling to sacrifice themselves for their marriage. Till death do us part is not just a ceremonial statement. I don't know. It says AF Wing Mom. So this might be a female post. Yeah. So, and it says here, this was her praising him, how good he was dealing with the divorce. That's like the image on the left. And then El Tapo Guzman says, you're at fault if your husband murders you is probably one of the most unhinged things I've read in a while. Also, women not taking accountability in reply to a man murdering his wife. Incredibly, wildly ironic. Some of you really need to touch grass.
Okay. All right. Yes. And this is what they're doing. This is what these women would understand. If a man took a woman's children away, and maybe he let her have the children like an evening on Wednesday and they every other weekend. You know, he just decided that, and then he decided to take everything that she had built, and then he decided to completely arrange her life on his whim. You would understand that to be controlling abuse, and yet we casually just do this every day with divorce. Like women just do it. Like this is a traumatic event. It's a traumatic event for the husband. It's a traumatic event for the children. I don't know how it isn't a traumatic event for her. I guess she just didn't attach to him or her kids. Like she just is floating along and was just like, yeah, this is okay. She's just like, she has the commitment of somebody who's just sitting in a theater watching a movie. And then when it's over, she just gets up and walks out. But anyway, it's traumatic. It's a traumatic thing to put someone through. And if it was men who are regularly doing it to women for no reason, but I'm bored, believe me, feminists would regard it as a form of abuse. It would be called divorce abuse, and it would be on the Duluth model. Okay.
Yep. All right, I'm going to play the next one. Guys, if you're watching this, hit like for us. And I see people in the vertical chat that have not seen us before. So thanks for sticking around and checking out this content. Okay, I'm going to play more of the video.
Murders you is probably one of the most unhinged things I've read in a while. Also, women not taking accountability and reply to a man murdering his wife. Incredibly, wildly ironic. Some of you really need to touch grass. This guy, Brandon Johnson, was one of those wacko losers. He said, women will not accept accountability.
Wacko
women
losers.
also initiate 75%.
Yeah. Well, he's just putting, okay. So it could just be look. Let's just hear her. Let's hear this post. Okay. Yes, she thinks all men basically that don't have the opinion that she thinks they should have are wacko losers. That's what it is. So, all right, here we go.
5% of divorces. Are there men who are abusive and cheat on their wives? Certainly. And I have no sympathy for them, but the women who initiate a divorce because they are unhappy is a cop-out and probably are listening to feminist. I'm sure he was going to say feminist. Actually, being unhappy is a perfectly justifiable reason for getting divorced, because you know what? It's none of your business why people want to get divorced. You miserable Karen, go get a life. Okay. I
And
personally
I
don't
wonder if
believe
women would say the same thing if men could get primary custody, and if women were routinely expected to provide most of the finances in a relationship and men got half of that too. Like if the shoe is on the other foot, I guarantee you this would be a spoke in the Duluth model wheel. It would be considered divorce abuse. It would be considered legal abuse or something. This is, and then the fact that just for whatever reason, women don't
Go ahead,
seem
I'm
to have
sorry.
the same loyalty to their relationships. I mean, look at when feminists said, well, men had the ability to have a divorce. Yeah, and there was like one divorce in 1,000. And then they give women the unilateral ability to have a divorce, and suddenly divorce rate is 50%. And honestly, when I'm not just talking about being able to have a divorce, because this isn't no fault divorce, this is man at fault divorce. This is the when they say this is no fault, this divorce is the same. The situation is the same as just assuming the man was at fault like 100 years ago. So they took the divorce that happens when the man was at fault and they made it the standard, and then they called it no fault divorce. Bullshit. It's man at fault divorce. She had a man at fault divorce, even though he did nothing wrong. And incidentally, if there's conservatives listening to it who are inclined to keep pushing our marriage on men, is this fair? I mean, at one point, a man had to do something wrong for his marriage to implode. But now all that has to happen is the tinglies need to wear off, or the woman feels the need to, has a bit of an itch for some from new strange, and it's over. Is that fair? Is that fair that we have evolved from fault divorce to man at fault divorce? Is that a fair contract? Okay.
Yep. All right. So let's play a little bit more of this.
in divorce. As a religious person, I take my vows of marriage very, very seriously, and I would only justify leaving.
Well, look, but Hannah Cox, first of all, I'm call me a skeptic of your devotion, but that doesn't, what your situation is doesn't matter. Like if women can just get divorced and at the drop of a hat for whatever reason, take the kids, take half your shit, what incentive is there for men to get involved at all? You're making this to a conversation about no fault divorce. I mean, I know that she does say this, so I'm not going to put words in her mouth. She does say that the state should probably not be involved in marriage at all. I agree. But I think that nonetheless, you're still caping or not caping, but you're still going up against men who are simply observing reality and telling you what it is. Just like this. And they're not saying it's okay. They're saying, hey, do you want to reduce these outcomes? Which, by the way, you're taking a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. So you have, the percentage of men who end up getting a divorce, or the couples who end up getting a divorce. And within that fraction, you have the percentage of men who end up losing the kids in a divorce, which is still probably the majority. Okay. And then within that, you have the number of men who do something violent to themselves or to others, which is a small percentage. Because I know a lot of guys. It's shocking how many guys just in my day-to-day life are in the midst of a divorce, or they've already been divorced at least once. And I'm sorry, I don't think it's their fault. I don't think that in every case the men aren't stepping up enough or they're not making enough. It's just that we don't incentivize people to stay together. We incentivize divorce. We especially incentivize it in women with all the benefits. Eddie Murphy was talking about that in his stand-up in the 80s. This isn't a new thing. right? Half Eddie. So you have, and then some men, a small percentage, don't cope with that very well. And most of those men just take their own life. And so then you have like the tiny fraction of men that like lash out in a way that harms others, which is, again, tragic, shouldn't happen. It's terrible. But if you want to reduce that, you have to like start addressing like all of the steps that lead to it. Not like any man who commits suicide, fine, keep it to yourself. You're a loser. That's basically what she's saying. Okay. But if they kill somebody else and then themselves, oh, now it's a problem. And the men who don't shame or shout down the men who are not immediately sympathetic to the women or immediately jump on the let's all blame men bandwagon, well, those men are just as grotesque because they didn't step up and say something. And it's like what I'm seeing from this is that, and again, Hannah Cox is selling herself as a rational, politically homeless, libertarian woman. They're supposed to be floating above everybody else. Okay. They're the best people, biggest brains. And she's still expecting that men be completely empathetic, even if it doesn't solve any problems, even if there's no potential solutions, even if there's no discussion about why this happened or how this could be prevented and what we could talk about. No, you have to just get on board and shame men who are not complete, like call them all losers, tell them to touch grass, terminally online, all of that. No solutions. We don't want solutions. We want empathy. That's basically what she's saying. I don't want solutions. I don't want to understand it. I want you to tell me that you don't want to kill me and that you love women and that you hate the men who did this. And that's it. Like that. I just want compliance, emotional compliance. That's what she's asking for.
Let's be honest. If that was all that was being asked for, it'd be fine. This is the problem that I see. That whole skit, it's not about the nail, right? The problem is sometimes there's no nail. And it's just about making men feel bad. If women were like, I just feel really uncertain now because I'm being propagandized with bullshit about criminal men, and they just wanted a hug from their partner and say, no, I love you, and blah, 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 whatever. Fine. If women just want to be pampered emotionally, they just want men to do a little emotional labor for them, fine. This isn't that. This isn't just, I want you to validate my feelings about the nail. That would be neurotic, but acceptable as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to defend women on that. It's neurotic, but acceptable. That's not what she's doing. She's demanding men be morally inferior to her. She's demanding moral dominance over men. And she's framing this situation. She's taking this situation from something that can be examined, maybe found a solution about within the greater context, which is men's suicide as a result of relationship breakdown. There's no argument that's going to convince me that this is somehow outside of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Men's suicide as a result of relationship breakdown. She takes it out of the greater argument, the total scope of the information from which we might be able to defend women. Maybe men need more support during the process of divorce because in general, men are more anxious when it comes to relationship conflict, right? We can recognize that. Men are more anxious when it comes to relationship conflict. Therefore, it might be beneficial to everyone involved to give them more support, right? That's like the base level. We can let women engage in this absolute traumatic, destructive thing that they do, but maybe we could give men a little bit of support through it. Okay. Right. Recognizing that they tend to respond less, I don't want to say less optimally, but they're more sensitive to relationship breakup. Right. Okay. We can't talk about that. No, all this incident can be used for is grist for the mill when it comes to establishing moral dominance over men. Okay. And she says that the people who want to talk about what's going on, they want to express the situation. They want to say, hey, men suffer quite a bit during this process. Let's look at that. And maybe they're not being very polite about it. Maybe they're saying she did X, Y, and Z. She looked like she was gloating. She embarrassed him. She threw this out into the public. I mean, ultimately, I think she just was causing him a lot of trauma and pain, and maybe she does have the right to do that, but that doesn't change the fact that she's causing him trauma and pain. All right. And they want to look at this, find a solution for it, to ultimately, at the end of the day, reduce the number of men who kill themselves. Of course, they probably didn't even care about that, of women who get killed, right? Look at this in terms of a solution so that, we're not looking at in February, another woman experiencing this, there are 20 men and one woman experiencing this, of course, there's also the women killing the men, but let's ignore that entirely.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, by the way, interesting factoid. The number of women killing men reduced since the 1970s. And one of the going theories is because women get more support during divorce now. Huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
weird.
Since the 1970s. In the 1970s, men and women were killing each other about equally. Husbands and wives were killing each other about equally. I mean, it might have been a little bit less for women, like maybe 5%. And
So
over
it's not
the
because women are kinder. It's because women are seeing
more
less of
supported.
it. Yeah, they're getting more support.
Yeah, so they got more support through the process of relationship breakdown, relationship troubles, and divorce. And lo and behold, the number of men who were killed by their wives decreased. There you go, Hannah Cox. That might be a serious solution you could explore, except that's not what's important. And this is the thing. Women like this grab onto these situations. Like Gollum grabs onto my precious.
Mm-hmm.
And they use them to their ideological ends, and they control them, and they take them away from people like Deborah Pawnee, who are trying to reduce the scope of the blast zone. Like the women like this are literally responsible for perpetuating the problem that causes the suicides and the murder suicides, because they suck all of the oxygen out of the room. They reframe these issues in terms of what they want from them ideologically. They take them from the people who are trying to use them as data points to create a solution. You know that? And I did not come to this conclusion until I actually started to look into feminist NGOs regarding domestic violence and the things that they've done in the past. Yeah. This stuff does, like, if women continue to be victims, that's good. They get continue to use them ideologically. So they have no incentive to actually reduce the number of female victims. Right? In fact, ironically, the big effect that they've had by creating the system of support for women is to reduce the number of male victims. So what would be the best way to reduce the number of female victims? Well, support systems for men. Are they promoting that? No, they shout it down. They try to destroy it. And yet the evidence is there. Okay.
All right. A little bit more.
Leaving my marriage if there were cheating or abuse. But that being said, the state, the government, has no business telling people under what conditions they have to stay married. That is a religious matter, not a political one. And I don't think the government should have ever gotten involved in marriage in the first place.
Let me jump. Understanding abuse. I wanted to jump ahead. I'm sorry. I forgot to do that.
When she's no longer happy in her relationship, like a rat out of an aqueduct, she's going to be gone.
What?
I said that when Hannah Cox is no longer happy in her relationship, like a rat out of an aqueduct, she'll be gone.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
We're ever going to sit here and have this conversation that, like, women are the more emotional sex. No, they're not. In fact, every bit of data I've seen backs up the fact that women, even when they have someone who's being rude to them, even when they have somebody who's disrespecting them, maintain decorum.
Okay, what is
and
this?
Still treat the other person.
The study is from someone named Adam Grant. Says one more time, women aren't too emotional to lead. Data: when men are anxious and stressed, they're more likely to be rude, hostile, and abusive. Women show respect regardless of their feelings. The test of emotional intelligence is not how you feel, it's how you respond.
Leading through the uncertainty of COVID-19.
Let's look it up. Oh, really? Wait. Are we seriously going to use COVID-19? How the fuck were women behaving during that period, guys? I mean, I know there were men that were like, mask Nazis, but come on. Adam Grant. We should look that up.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up right now. I'm going to see what it
Okay.
actually says. Leading through the uncertainties.
I mean, where does the word Karen come from? I mean, not the name, obviously we know, but the slur, I guess. Okay. But anyway,
That she just
you go
used,
ahead
so she
and
signed off on it, except towards a man. Behaviors. Okay. You continue listening to her, and I will.
all right. Let me just see here. Yeah.
With respect, women as a whole do not fly off and murder husbands when they are cheated on, which men are statistically more likely to do, when they are left, when they are sick, which again, men are statistically much more likely to do, much more likely.
All right. Hold up. So this is the thing that's kind of interesting about this. So she'll say women are less likely to murder their husbands. Than
not
men.
that much less.
No, but depends on how you define a woman murdering her husband. Because if she gets a boyfriend to do it, or hires a hitman to do it, or gets accuses the husband of doing something and reporting it to the cops or whatever, then that is her using violence against men, but just not herself. She's getting somebody else to do it. And this happens. So if a woman, so here's the thing, what I think is going on, okay? If a man murders his wife, then it's considered a man murdering his wife. But if a woman gets a boyfriend to murder her husband, then it's a man murdering another man. So you see this, it depends on how we are going to define our terms, right? And again, the statistics for this are probably pretty hard to suss out as well. And then let's look at one other thing here too, because I think this is like the elephant in the room, okay? If this video, let me put it like this. This incident with the Sheffields that we're talking about, the only reason why it's viral is because a woman was killed by her husband after she put out a TikTok video that seemed to, paint a different picture. So the truth is that we care about women so much that when something does happen, everybody's talking about it. And the fact that Hannah Cox knows all about the Sheffields and nothing about Jeff Younger tells you everything you need to know. So do you see what I'm saying? Like the filter of our awareness of gender dynamics, of violence between men and women, of domestic issues, the filter itself is only showing us when women are victims. So we assume that women are victims because we, like most people, have to do homework to find the other side of the equation. Not just like the other side of the story, but I mean like incidents of men being, abused, being murdered, and all of this other stuff. And we don't find it. Like women, one of the things I do on my news show, for those of you guys who don't know, is I if I can, I'll put in a story of a woman who does something horrible. Female pedophiles, for example. We don't call them pedophiles. We call them teachers that get involved with their students. But that's pedophilia. It's just that we don't call it that. So I'll put a focus in on and say, look, the language is different. Oh, they had an affair, right? But that damages that boy. And if he goes on in the future to commit sexual crimes, guess what? We get to just blame men for that. We don't even want to know that, like, maybe he was abused by a woman in his life. Or when a woman kills her baby. There was a story of a woman who, threw her baby in there's like the dumpster baby meme, but there was like something specific where they, tried to flush their baby down the toilet because they were trying to, it was basically like killing the baby after they had it, or they were frustrated and they kill their babies. And what do we say when there's news stories about that? Oh, postpartum depression. Oh, she couldn't handle the pressure of children, So it's like the way that the stories go viral, the conditions under which they go viral, is proof that we tend to excuse bad female behavior and find ways to blame men. We only know about the Sheffields because the woman had a TikTok account and put out a video that made her look super wholesome. And that's it. That's the reason we care. If there was no video, then there would be no story. You see what I'm saying? Because like things like this happen all the time. But this one is the story that we have to talk about because the woman in the story put out a video that made her look like a decent person. Who knows what she's really like? We just have that to go off of.
Wow,
and
these
now
effects are
that's the
tiny.
conditions we have to talk to. What?
These effects are tiny.
What do you mean? The effects? Oh, the
The
study?
effects are tiny, like in the study.
Yeah.
Also, could they control for the fact that women might rank male leaders more abusive than male followers would rank female leaders, or vice versa? Anyway, this seems like a really. But here's the other thing. Like, I'm not somebody who's going to be like, oh, men are more emotional, herpaderp. Yeah, so what? What if they are? So what if they are? I mean, if they are more emotional when there's family conflict, so what?
Well, how do we
support
measure emotional?
Does it matter though?
No, it
If
doesn't.
men are
but-
more emotional, so what? If their men are more emotional along some metric, then we support them. If they are more stressed out by family conflict, then that is an indication to support them, Hannah Cox. What is it an indication for you? It appears to be an indication to mock and belittle them, is what I'm getting at. And to say, oh, you're emotional. So what? If men are more emotional than women, is that not a call to support them? Like it would be for women? Like, this is what I'm getting at. Her attitude towards this is like, it's like a gotcha. Oh, I gotcha. Well, then your assumption, Hannah, is that men should be less emotional than women. And that when men evince some kind of vulnerability, some kind of emotional vulnerability, that you get to mock them and shove your lady testicles in their face. I don't know what that would look like. But anyway. So you get to mock them instead of actually considering them for support when they have any kind of emotional vulnerability. Like I know this might be offensive, but I'm here to support men, even in a situation where they may have more anxiety than women or be more emotionally affected from something. Like, yes, then we support them. Right. And her attitude is, oh, you're not living up to this image that I have of you, and I'm going to mock you and shame you based on it. Well, then that means you're invested in that image of men, Hannah. Like, you're using, like, this is what I'm saying. She's using it as a gotcha because she thinks that's the role that men should occupy. But at the same time, she doesn't give men credit for her own expectation that they occupy that role, which is some really pretzeline logic there. Okay. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. I got
too offensive.
I got a super chat from D503 because it's 20 Mexican pesos and says most women act like children. I think they're Mexican pesos. It's MX. So thank you. All right. Let's listen to some more of this, and then we're going to go to Amala.
Likely to leave their dying wives and move on if their woman has a terminal.
Yeah, this is bullshit.
Yeah, men are more likely to leave their wives. Yeah.
This is what they do. They construct this world in which of bullshit. Like, we've actually looked at this. This was pee hacking. They divided up the illness that men would leave their wives over so fine. It's like men leave their wives when their wives are bipolar survivors of I don't know, A-type.
They get really specific so that it frames it the way they want.
Stage 3C who have a club foot and respiratory issues. So they slice it as thin as they can to find, and then they say, men leave them in this circumstance, and then they just sort of waffle off the rest of the subcategories of illness in which men don't leave their wives. Like, and it's like, this was just total bullshit. This was actually called out by somebody who sort of has this as a career, calling out crappy science, and yet here she is presenting it as a pillar of why men suck. Don't you grow out of that, Hannah? Like, when you're 6, you're like, oh, boys have cooties, but you eventually grow out of it, or you're supposed to if you become an adult, but apparently not. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep going.
All right.
You don't see women committing this kind of violence when men end up divorcing them for a
Yes,
younger
you
woman
do.
and get 50% of the custody.
Yes, you
just don't
do.
see it.
No, you don't see it because you're not paying attention. You're looking at the stuff that you want to see. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So when you don't know who Jeff Younger is, so you're proving what I'm saying. You're claiming that, oh, well, but this doesn't happen. No, you don't know about it. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. You know, there's this phenomenon for babies, right? It's called object permanence, where if they don't, that's why peekaboo works, because when you hide your face, they think you're gone. That's what you have. You have toddler brain because you think that because you're not aware of something, it doesn't exist. Sorry. And libertarian, this is the thing about like libertarians that piss me off. They think they're so much smarter than everybody because
All
they
right, here we
understand
go.
property rights.
First hit. Right relevant to our interests. Right, there you go. Woman shot man in chest, kills estranged husband during divorce. Women killed. She's still alive. She just attempted to flee. Shot him in the chest.
Why would they kill themselves? They can kill their man and
But of
still have something
course-
to live for. Just find some other dude.
Hannah would probably look at Brenda Watson alleged she was verbally abused by Tommy Kellen before she shot him in the chest. Verbally abused. But that's that's going to be the construction of her defense, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And where is this? Like, where is this? Why isn't this the new it case? Right?
Because it involves a man. Like I said, if that like there's no super wholesome TikTok video. Like I saw it on TikTok. It must be news. I'm going to talk about it now. Like the fact that it's viral is proof.
Yes.
It's proof.
That people
You know?
care. Let us throw it up. Like, why aren't we talking about this case? Why aren't we talking about it, Hannah? Like this happened like 6 days ago. Right? Nobody's talking about it. Nobody cares. Some dude got shot in the chest because he was trying to divorce his wife.
Oh, a Florida woman, no less.
Yeah.
You know, that's legit.
Yeah. So like, why aren't we talking about this case?
This is the Florida woman.
Apparently she was bringing men home, and she shot him. So it sounds like she was
just randomly looked up a crime. Just randomly looked it up.
Randomly, just woman kills man during divorce. And this is Hannah Cox. One Google search would have proven you wrong. And yet
last week.
Did not do it.
Well, the man should have been on TikTok, Allison. I mean,
Ugh.
how else would we know?
So this is just a matter of where you choose to look. She's constructing a world for herself that her husband apparently lives in. Good grief.
Yeah.
Let's hope he never does anything to bore her or not make her happy. That's
all right. I'm gonna play
That's quite the series of flaming hoops you have to jump through.
Let's play a little bit more of this, then we'll go to Amala's video. The other video, there's not much there, so she's more. Let's say she's less like let's hate men and more sort of like let's all calm down. So.
I mean, it's an outlier event. You probably know the names of the women who do those kinds of things because it is so out of left field for a woman to respond in that way. Men are the ones who cannot control their emotions. Men are the ones who need to learn to grow up, and they need to get a hold of themselves. It doesn't matter if she cheated or is walking away. She has free will. She has the right to do that. That makes her a bad person. Absolutely. And I think that you should fight every bit.
Okay. All right. Stop here. All right. So all these men were saying that she provoked this.
No, they didn't even claim that. They said she may have, right? Because she divorced him. So like the fact that there is a divorce but that preceded the event suggests that the divorce had something to do with the event, and that's all they're saying. They're not even blaming her. But
a lot of them,
jumped on the
they're
bandwagon.
Okay. So Hannah Cox. Okay, this is infuriating because all this is watching some like a toddler sitting in front of a bunch of clay and constructing a freaking diorama of what happened. Mm-hmm. It's like it's artificial. She's just constructed this thing, right? Men were saying, "Oh, this might have happened." She might have provoked in this way. Don't know, because we don't have the information. And she's constructed this entire framework with the conclusion that men suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope she never turns that laser on her husband.
Well, what
Like,
can he do?
that's gotta be quite the thing. I wonder,
Yeah.
and we know that she's very, very judgmental when it comes to things like income and all kinds of other stuff.
For sure.
So if he falters at any moment,
Her gold digging is just libertarianism, Allison.
if he falters at any moment, he's already got the laser pinpoint right on him, because the only value that he brings is all of the other stuff. His masculinity, being a man, is actually negative value that he has to compensate for.
Mhm.
So the moment he falters in any of these other value propositions, that laser is going to hit him full force. Death laser from the sky. And of course, and she'll be justified because he's not happy. All right, let's keep going.
All right, a little bit more.
Make sure you don't have to pay her any money for that. Make sure that you keep 50% of the custody. Like, that's fine, but you don't have the right to kill someone because they don't want to be with you. And guys, it just goes on and on, like literally page after page after page like this. And like,
Okay, wait.
their
Let's look at what she's
fantasies
got
about-
here.
I can't see it. It's
I can see it. Just open
okay.
it. Yeah. He's
I
just,
mean, open it.
I guess I can't get. I want to try to get a little closer, but I can't seem to.
Can you look at it in? Yeah, it's a little out of focus.
Yeah. Okay. Wait a second.
It
Here we
just, yeah.
go. Okay. So it's not great that she has this out of focus, because you should be able to just take a look at it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could, in theory, go to the thread and look at it yourself. But
We
again,
don't know
she's
the
not.
backstory.
She's
Look
not,
at this. This is the pages and pages. We don't know the backstory here. Yes, is she a walkaway wife? Was there adultery or abuse? Husband suicide, wife something. Okay, so basically this person says we don't know the backstory. And let's go back a little. How is Hannah Cox framing this? And this is her choice. Like, she's chosen the worst of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you don't have the right to kill someone because they don't.
Nobody's saying they do.
And guys,
Yeah, no one's saying that. Again, this is like poisoning the well from the get-go. She starts by saying there's a big age gap.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, okay, and so what?
Okay.
Like,
Let's
did the
finish
women
this.
not make a choice? Okay.
guys, it just goes on and on, like literally page after page after page.
Okay, you don't show
like this.
that.
And like,
And the only thing you
fantasies
show is
about
there's
what
one guy who
women-
says we don't know the backstory. I think that you're distorting things, Hannah. Just judging from everything I've seen here, you are constructing a fiction for which you will not be held responsible. Okay.
Yep.
are thinking when they go through a divorce, like what their motivations are, what their life is going to look like. You just know these men have never talked to women, at least not in the past like 10 years or so. They're just the types that like sit in their online world in their
this guy has
basements.
said we don't know the backstory. We just
No, he's clearly he's clearly just a chud, Allison. The chuds don't know how to talk to women. They're analyzing and they're trying to understand things and presenting, possible like hypotheses about what may have led to that. That's just chud behavior. They're just doing that between bouts of World of Warcraft or whatever it is you chuds do.
Yeah.
Shutting it up.
One Colin says, incredibly selfish. These kids will grow up without a father and mother because he thought he was more important. Oh, so this person actually calls out the man. So what we have
It's a man calling out the men too.
So we have a man calling out the man, Hannah, in your chosen example, plus somebody saying, we don't know the backstory. These are your chuds, are they? This is just bullshit. She's just selling something. That's what this is. She's just selling a particularly profitable narrative.
Oh, for sure. The whole thing is like it's so easy. Like it's so easy to just be like, this is why I harp on the libertarian part, because she's using that as part of her branding to say, I'm not like the other feminists. And then goes on to just say the same shit that all the other feminists say and puts a little spin on it like I'm a gold digger because capitalism is good. So whatever. It's all self-preservation garbage to me.
Yeah,
And
pretty
I mean, that's kind of like all there is to that. There's not much else.
Okay,
so
then let's go to the next one.
Let's go to Amala, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and let's see. She kind of, I'll go to the just where she starts talking about the reactions. I will say, full disclosure, I like Amala, but that doesn't mean that she gets everything right. But she's not like Hannah Cox. She's way less insufferable. So she's covering this woman's TikTok channel or whatever. Is that what they call it? A channel? I don't know. And like what kind of content she normally puts up to get a gist of this kind of person. And again, I think that people are going to be subject to the to being kind of emotionally manipulated by this person's online presence versus like what could be the reality. Because what people put, like you mentioned that woman. I think we're talking about the same woman.
I'm prejudiced in the opposite direction. This looks like a narcissist.
Yeah. Do you know the model? Was it the model that killed her boyfriend? Is that the one
Courtney
that you're talking about?
Yep.
Courtney. Yeah, Courtney something, right? So like no one thought that she could have done that because she was this attractive model, blonde, very pretty girl, hot body and all of that. And all of her pictures, she's just smiling in bathing suits and whatever she's wearing. And then we just learned she killed a guy. And I think for people who know, because a lot of people did not know about that story because that doesn't make headlines when women do stuff like that. I mean, it should be a lesson, the usual. It's like one of the first things you learn as a child, don't judge a book by its cover. But these women are doing just that here. So anyway, let's play this piece. Right. Yeah, it's like 10 seconds after
for one of her daughters. A lot of very upbeat, positive videos that, of course, led up to her video explaining that she was going to be a single parent. Now, what's crazy about this is obviously the storyline of her posting this video praising her husband and then him going on to take her life and his own. But what's even wilder than that is the responses that I'm seeing online, particularly from men that are justifying the actions of this husband and explaining that with the
No. Okay. And again, I think this is an error. This is a category error that women make. They are not justifying because, and it's like women think when you say this was provoked, that's justification because we offer that to women. We say, well, women can't be expected not to resist provocation because they just aren't the same kind of creature as men. They just don't have the will to do it. And then, so if women kill a man, we say he provoked them, and we offer them a number of defenses that men don't have based on provocation. And then we have the whole branch of feminist scholarship that essentially says that women are not responsible for their domestic violence because men provoke them, right? So there's this cultural attitude that if a woman is provoked, that means she's not responsible. Don't have the same cultural attitude towards men. So they're looking at it from a more masculine framework, which is the provocation exists, but I will still be holding this man responsible for not rising above it.
Yeah. And we also, it's good to know what the provocation is so that we can talk about ways to prevent this in the future. Like men, when a violent situation happens or something, men are usually, I'm not saying it's only men, but like if we're going to go down that road, men are going to look at that and say, okay, how do we prevent this in the future? What do we need to do? And understanding what provoked it is like the first step. That doesn't mean that you justify it. But anyway.
The way he felt over their divorce and the possibility of losing custody, that it made sense that he took this action against Jennifer Sheffield, taking her life. Let's read some of the tweets that I found here. This is Richard Cooper.
Yeah, so Richard Cooper, I think I know him. So he's like a MGTOW guy, if this is the same person. I'll look this up just to confirm it later. But
and again, this is a selected section of tweets. And at the beginning, I pointed out that these are people on Twitter having an opinion. There is literally professors who got tenure, who get accolades for writing "he deserved it" in papers that inform government interventions into domestic violence, right? There is a big difference in influence and blast zone. Like, these are maybe offensive tweets, but we have to every day, like somebody like Justin Trottier has to push back against the institutional attitude that men deserve the violence that's visited on them. Okay. And this is not a new attitude either. In the past, I mean, it's almost like a bit of a progress when it comes to male abuse victims, because, 200, 300 years ago, male abuse victims would be subject to additional punishment. So if a man is abused by his wife, the community would then continue to punish him even more, right? What's the punishment for a man abusing his wife? Being put in the stockades and whipped. What's the punishment for a man being abused by his wife? Being put in the stockades and whipped. At least we've got a little progress, because we don't just immediately criminalize men being abused by their wives. There's a few more steps involved now. But there is that attitude that when men experience violence, they deserved it. And it is historical. It is current. It is promoted by very, very popular ideologies. It's in our institutions. It is a big part of our attitude towards male victims of domestic violence, right? It's everywhere. And it informs police. It informs social services. It informs whether or not men get shelters. It informs whether or not men get subject to false accusations by their abusers, whether or not they end up being jailed when they're the ones who are abused. It informs all of that. So I just want to point this out, the relative proportion here, right? We have an institutionalized narrative, and then we have a couple guys beaking off on Twitter, and who then themselves may be motivated by men's greater anxiety during relationship conflict. And again, I'm not somebody who's going to be afraid of saying that men might be more emotional in a particular instance, because to me, that means we give them more support, right? So anyway, let's keep going.
All right. Let's keep going. Here we go.
Who says she's taking the kids and him for everything he's worth. I guarantee that's why he did this. What women do and say are often very different. Sad outcome. Now, what's wild about this is there is absolutely no evidence that exists on the internet in any sort of reporting that Jennifer Sheffield was attempting to take away the kids from this man. In fact, if we go based off of the singular video that we have about their relationship, she explains that he's doing really well during the divorce and that he intends to take care of the dog.
He's taking it well. And you don't say things like he's taking it well when, I gave him a box of cookies. He's taking that well. I gave him a phone call on his birthday. He's taking it well. I gave him $1 million in the settlement. He's taking that well. I decided to pay for a trip to Jamaica. He's really taking that well. You don't say he's taking it well when you're doing something of benefit to another human being. You say that when you know it's harming them, right? They're rising above their pain and trauma to continue to not affect you. Like, that's how I look at it. That's how I see it.
Like starting a sentence with "despite."
Despite.
Yeah. Despite everything, he's taking it well.
Despite,
So,
yeah, he's taking it well. He's taking the beating well. He's taking the sodomy well. He's taking losing his hand well. He's taking losing his job well.
Rich Cooper's not justifying anything. He's simply explaining. Maybe like there is something kind of I don't know, insensitive about using this tragedy to make a point, which maybe Rich Cooper was doing. But I mean, the tragedy's already happened, and that's not the same as justifying anything. It's simply, you could say it's grave standing, but it's not like women don't do this all the time also. So
What are you saying, that we're grave standing? No.
No,
I'm
I'm
saying-
not saying we're great. I'm saying like
Oh,
I'm
okay,
trying to be, I wouldn't say playing devil's advocate, but trying to get like, looking at Rich Cooper's comments saying, I guarantee you, right? Because he's just making a prediction. And I'm not going to go back to that, but he's saying, I guarantee you this is what's probably pushed him to this point. And maybe
Mhm.
this is an effort to understand it. And what I'm saying is that maybe some people like, Amala Kenobi here, or Hannah Cox, although I think Hannah Cox's interests are more selfish, are saying, well, I don't think this is appropriate. The body's still warm, whatever, right? Like it's sort of like using this tragedy to talk about something else so you can make a point.
Okay, but that's the thing. Feminists came in here and they used this tragedy to make a point about men, which is
Yes.
pathological, because there's no point to be made about men in this. And if there is a point to be made about men, it's that they need more support during relationship conflict, full stop. That's it. Like right here on this channel, guys, you are hearing the solution that will reduce men's suicide and murder-suicide. I don't know if it'll do anything for women. We need to support men when they go through relationship breakdown. If we want to give women the unilateral ability to put the men through the meat grinder, to shove their faces in the ground and to carrot up their ass, we need to give men support in enduring it. Right? There you go. Right here, guys. We are saying the thing that will actually reduce the problem. What is Hannah Cox saying? Oh, this is an opportunity for me to feel superior to win. What's this woman saying? Probably just upset. Like she's probably just upset.
Oh my God.
That she feels like men are.
How could you
being
say
used.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, like I said, it's probably that neurotic, oh, why aren't men giving me a hug? I feel uncertain about something, which is fine. Like I allow women to be emotional in their particular way and men to be emotional in their particular way, and it's fine. If we all just were kinder to each other in these circumstances, I think that would make a better world. However, what Hannah Cox is doing, and if this woman is doing it too, I'll put her in that, is not, oh, I feel unsure, I need to be reassured. Oh, it's not the nail, I just want a hug because I feel bad. No, it's not that. It is actively establishing men as lesser. And I don't like that. I don't think that's justified or justifiable.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I got a super chow from Great Indoors who gives us $10 and says, despite this not being $5, I still hope you're taking this well. Thank you. He's always got the puns. All right.
Daughter that they share, and has been doing so through this tumultuous time period. Now, if she was planning to take custody away from her husband, would she make a video online explaining just how wonderfully he's taking the process of divorce and how wonderfully he's taking care of their child?
No.
Possibly.
No, she's
No,
not.
yeah. It's possible because, look, if you want to do something, okay, say you have a social media presence. This woman has a social media presence. She has a TikTok. I don't know how big it was. And she is going through a divorce. It is possible that she knew that she was going to destroy this man in the courts. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not making a claim because we don't know. But I'm saying it's possible that she could have every intention to destroy this man and take half his money and take the kids from him and everything, but posted a video saying the opposite to guard her ass and protect her reputation. I mean, why not? Like, I'm not saying it's happening, but I'm saying it's possible. We'll never know now, but like the truth is, women are capable of doing that, especially because they do tend to value their social cachet, their social let's say status, especially if they have an audience. Why wouldn't you go on there and say, oh, he's taking it so well, I'm so happy, everything's so great, guys, everything great, guys, we're so happy, he's really cooperative despite everything. And then, back at home, she's like, I'm gonna take everything from you, I don't give a shit, right? Whatever, we don't know. Like, I know men who have gone through divorces with women that I've known forever, that I've known longer, and they become absolute demons when the divorce comes. I was shocked, but I've seen it multiple times. So I'm not saying it's happening. I'm saying it could happen, and that's not a ridiculous claim to make. But of course, I'm being logical, so that means I don't give a shit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, like I said, if you actually care, then you would promote a solution that prevents it going forward, and we have presented it. All right, it's right here. Right here. We've got it. You know, we know what we would need to do to prevent this occurring again. And it
But
requires
again, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
but it requires stepping away from using this event as some kind of got you against men and actually recognizing the triggers and the necessity of supporting men through this event. And again, it's not supporting murderers, it's supporting men who suicide. You think that if you're actually getting men through events like this, you're helping them deal with the anxiety around these kinds of stuff. You think if you're helping them, you're going to be helping a lot of men, a lot more men. Like if we actually cared about men, we'd realize that the 20 men who suicide for every one man who murders suicides are actually more important, even though it involves a woman.
Yeah, but I think again, this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. I think that women are, well, it's like you said, right? They can't help that they find this terrifying because men are not immediately siding with them on this issue, right? Siding against the man who killed his wife and killed himself.
Oh, so
They're-
men are actually expressing themselves.
Yeah, well, okay. They're trying to understand it, and they're vocalizing their analysis, like why did this happen, and this is actually to give more credit, like to support men who were saying stuff online about this. This is in part because of the video, because if her TikTok video that she put up before she died, because if there was no TikTok video, this wouldn't be a story. Like I said, no one would. It would not make the news. Because you can probably find local news stories of, spouses killing their spouses, and or having them killed or being violent or whatever. It happens, unfortunately, all the time. Okay, but this one is special because she had a TikTok video, and because there was the TikTok video, this became like this mystery that had to be like, sort of like solved, right? And women landed on the, well, look at her, she's so wholesome and nice, and there she is doing makeup and all, and suddenly, and she said all these nice things about how supportive her man is, and suddenly he killed her. Well, they see it as, oh my God, like a switch happened. Men could just do this at any time. Or they'll suggest, well, maybe things were darker and she didn't know. It's like, it's soap opera shit, right? Meanwhile, men see this and they're like, well, what could this be? I don't think this guy just lost it one day, and so they would try to understand it and explain it. And because they're not just jumping on the side of what the women are saying, which is, oh my God, men are so awful, women are worried. They're like, oh my God, they're not siding with me, they're siding with him, they're siding with the murderer. But they're not. They're just not jumping on board. They're not jumping on the let's all hate men bandwagon.
There's another possibility then, if that's the case. It feels like a loss of control. But this is something that I think is going to become more prevalent, not less. Women are losing control over men's desire. Well, men are stopped caring as much about making women feel good. This is what I'm seeing. And that's probably going to accelerate as more and more men realize that there probably isn't a woman in it, in participation in the society. And even if there is, they're probably not going to get her by being submissive.
I mean, ultimately these videos, well, no, Amala's video ultimately is just saying that she's like, men should be more like, why aren't men more empathetic, right? Why are they that's the thing. Like, women are asking for something that men don't think is appropriate. It's not that they don't have the capacity to have it, but they're like, why would I do this when I don't know what the situation is? And men are trying to analyze it and be rational and try to understand it, but women don't want it to be understood. They just want it to be, they just want to be supported unconditionally.
Yeah, they want it to be about male.
Like again, they don't know this woman. They don't know who she is from Adam. But when her video came up and it became a viral story, all of a sudden she was all women.
Mm.
That's what happened. She became all women, and then all the women were like, "Well, why? Wait, you're trying to justify this? No."
Mhm. Okay,
So
do
okay.
we have more time codes to go for this? Actually,
So
we didn't watch the video that she put out. I don't think.
who?
The woman.
We did. We watched it at the beginning of the show for the
Oh,
context.
we
The
did.
TikTok video. Yeah, we did. We watched it at the
Oh,
beginning.
okay. All right, good. Well, let's finish. I used the
don't
F word. Damn
think
it.
so.
Mhm.
But thanks for your input, Richard. To which Gia McCool responds, and this is a woman. She responds to this, correct. It's why she went to social media for validation. Now, I'll be the first to say I'm not a fan of people going on social media, airing out their dirty laundry for the public, but it didn't seem as though she was doing that for validation. It seemed as though she was
No,
very
it
clear.
did. No, it did. Like
She was looking for help. She was looking for help in part. But I think, again, I don't know. It's like a social, what's the word? She has a parasocial relationship with her followers. She wanted to tell them what she was going through, but she wanted to make herself look like the good guy. It doesn't mean that she knew something bad was going to happen. She probably didn't. But it was just in case her divorce became more dramatic because of other stuff that might be going on. This is what I'm saying. It's like covering your ass. So let's say he didn't kill her, and let's say instead it became a really knockdown, drag out battle for the kids and half the property or whatever. And let's say he decided he was going to fight for his kids for whatever reason. We don't really know. That could get out into social media, and then she would already have her story set up because she made this really nice video. So now her followers will be like, "Oh my God, that poor woman. She just does makeup videos and fashion and hairdo videos. How could this man be so mean to her?" And I'm saying, I don't know if that's true, but I'm saying it's not outside the realm of possibility. Like, why would she put out a video airing her dirty laundry?
Yeah. I mean, well, women overshare all the time, but that could be like the thing is that we have a situation where we're entertaining all the possibilities. Like maybe he was a down low, violent abuser, you know?
Sure, maybe.
Maybe she
But then
was.
why'd she marry him and have kids with him? Like,
Yeah.
like it just goes
Why
back
didn't
to,
anybody
well, if
notice?
he's such a terrible person, then why are you with him making babies with him?
Even in Hannah Cox's example, people knew. They just apparently just ignored it,
Yeah.
which is weird, but whatever. Like that certainly is the type of person you are, Hannah. But like so maybe it's all down low abuse. Maybe he was the abused husband who ended up killing his wife for whatever reason during an incident of abuse. Maybe she verbally abused him. I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm just taking off on the excuse of the one woman who shot her husband in the chest. But here's the thing, we don't know because we need more background. We got a little bit of background maybe from that one super chat
There's
that
plenty of stories of women killing their babies and children. Plenty of them.
Yeah, plenty. And we got a little bit of background that maybe that one of the kids was a product of infidelity, was it?
Possibly not his child. Possibly not his kid, and then he learned about it.
Don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Both of these women are bringing a whole bunch of narrative stuff to this situation that we don't know about. And they are complaining that men are saying we don't know. It's what I can tell. The only thing I can tell from what Hannah Cox presented, because there's one man who was actually calling out the other guy for saying that there's more to the story, and then the other guy was saying, but there's more to the story, we don't know. And then this woman has a man who says, there's more to the story, I think. And then a woman says, exactly. So we don't even have a consistent opinion in the genders over this. Right? From the evidence that they're presenting, there's not even a consensus between men and women. And yet somehow man bad. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm getting really sick of this. Is anybody else finding this sort of boring? Sort of tedious?
It is getting tedious. Yeah, you might say that. It's also tiresome.
Exhausting, very media illiterate. That's the new thing, right? Okay, I'm gonna.
All right, that's it. We can be done here. So
yeah, okay. All right, I want to thank everybody. Woo, I shouldn't have gone right to that. Yeah, this is the
live.
thing. Yeah, we'll live. All right. If you want to support the show, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/support. If you want to send us a tip and a message, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip, where that's the best way for you to send us funds. And send us a comment if you wish to do so. And yeah, this is really done the rounds. It's yet another, and people, like, I've had guys getting upset over this because it's like, oh, I wish, and this is the funny thing. Sometimes you get a guy who says, I wish men wouldn't do this. I'm like, that's never going to stop. Like,
There's always going to be incidents like that, but like,
there's always going to be incidents like this because this is an extremely stressful situation. It's even more stressful for men. They get no support. They get no recognition. They get no understanding. They get nobody that says, hey, maybe don't push them even further. You know, and if they did, maybe people would say to this woman, just don't make it public, right? It's not worth it. Let's just have a little bit of consideration. This is something you don't want to overshare over, you know, and it would be good to just prevent this kind of thing happening in the future by understanding the construction of it, right? And but it's like, this is going to happen, and you are going to have these women immediately latch onto this to say something about all men, because that's the point. They want to have moral dominance over men. They want to present the idea that they are self-righteous, and they want to have gotchas. Like, I don't know about this individual who's on the screen now, but Hannah Cox is definitely all about the gotchas. Gotcha.
No, I think Amala is, she's kind of like, her approach is a little bit more like a big sister or a mother, like, please, like, let's all calm down kind of thing. I mean, she does obviously she doesn't read the room well when it comes to what men are saying, but I think I just sort of like write that off to, generally that's how women are going to see this, like, because I think it's just women are wired like that. I don't have anything against Amala, really. I mean, if I could talk to her, I'd tell her, like, you know, how she's wrong, but I think she's all right.
She's trying,
too, but yeah. But Hannah Cox, obviously a bad actor. I think that's absolutely a grift. It's like, ooh, here's another opportunity for me to blame men for something and shame men, claim the moral high ground, and get more subs from
let me ask
women
you
who
something.
agree with me.
Would blaming men going to result in less dead women? No, or dead men?
Of course not.
It's not. So what they're doing is not going to do anything, and it will take attention away from things that will. What will result in less dead people is actually getting men support, if in fact what's happening is that they're going through an incredibly stressful situation with no support. In fact, their main support is walking out and saying things like, you're taking this well.
Yeah.
You know, like... All right. Okay. So feedthebadger.com/support, support the show, feedthebadger.com/justthetip to put in a tip. And I want to thank Richard Bier for these that he made the suggestions for these two. And it's very much appreciated, because I think this is something that did need to be covered.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Richard Bier, for that. And so I'll hand it back to you, Brian.
All right. Well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we talked about in the show today. There's links to the videos in the description. And please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame, and we'll talk to you guys in the next video.